Louisa stood frozen, her heart pounding as Max's words echoed in her mind. He was so close to her now, his presence almost suffocating. His gaze was fixed on her, burning with an intensity that made her skin crawl, yet she couldn't tear her eyes away. The tension in the room was palpable, thick with something Louisa couldn't fully comprehend. She felt her body move almost on its own, as if under some unseen spell. Her mind screamed at her to step back, to say something, but the words didn't come. The room seemed to close in around her as Max took another step forward. His breath was shallow, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for the object beside him, his focus solely on her. He needed her to understand, needed her to do what he had planned. Louisa didn't know why she felt so compelled, but there it was. Curiosity mixed with fear. Max's voice was soft but insistent, a tone she couldn't ignore. Just as his hand moved toward her, a sharp ringing sound shattered the stillness of the moment. Louisa's phone. It was her mother. She quickly grabbed it, her fingers trembling. Her heart skipped a beat when she heard her mother's voice on the other end, urgent and familiar. "Come home right now, Louisa. We need to talk." The words seemed to snap Louisa out of her trance. She quickly dropped the phone, her eyes widening with realization. The urgency in her mother's voice gave her the clarity she needed. With a final glance at Max, she grabbed her things and fled from the room. She didn't look back, her feet carrying her out of the house, away from the confusion and uncertainty. After the incident with the phone and the massager, Louisa's family was slowly returning to normal life. Her parents were relieved to see their children happy and confident again. Things seemed to be falling back into place. They resumed their routines, and the house was filled with the comforting hum of everyday life. But one Sunday evening, everything changed. Their neighbor, Max, a man in his mid-30s, came over to visit. He had always been a friendly figure in their neighborhood, someone who would help with small tasks and offer a listening ear when needed. His presence was familiar and reassuring. Louisa's parents, eager for a pleasant evening, invited him to dinner, and Max accepted without hesitation. As they all sat around the dinner table talking and laughing, the atmosphere felt light and carefree. However, something about the seating arrangement made Louisa uneasy. She had unknowingly sat directly across from Max. Throughout the evening, Louisa couldn't shake the feeling that Max's attention was constantly on her. His eyes lingered a little too long, and there was something unsettling in the way he looked at her. Despite the fact that she was just a child, Louisa tried to brush it off, but a faint unease began to grow in the pit of her stomach. In the course of their conversation, Max casually mentioned that he was an artist. He claimed to be passionate about painting and offered to teach Louisa how to draw. He said that learning to draw would help her develop skills that would be useful in her future. Louisa's parents, trusting him and seeing no harm in the offer, agreed enthusiastically. They believed that Max's artistic experience would be a valuable opportunity for Louisa, especially since she showed a natural interest in creativity. From that evening on, Louisa began spending more and more time at Max's house. At first, the lessons were innocent enough. Max showed her different drawing techniques and encouraged her to experiment with her art. But as the days passed, Louisa started to feel a shift. Max seemed to be pushing her boundaries in ways that felt strange. Still, she couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was that made her feel uncomfortable. She just couldn't shake the nagging sense that something wasn't quite right. Louisa tried to ignore her growing concerns, telling herself that everything was fine, that she was just overthinking it. After all, Max was always kind and helpful, and her parents trusted him. But deep inside, a quiet voice began to question whether she was truly safe. Max began teaching Louisa to draw, spending time with her after school. He was patient and attentive, always encouraging her to experiment with new techniques. At first, Louisa enjoyed these lessons. She felt a sense of accomplishment as she improved her skills, and Max's encouragement made her feel like she was truly learning something valuable. However, as the days passed, something started to feel off. The lessons began to shift in a way that Louisa couldn't explain. Max started suggesting that she draw subjects that made her uncomfortable. His requests became more unusual. He would ask her to sketch scenes that seemed inappropriate for her age, things she didn't fully understand but felt uneasy about. She began to notice the way he looked at her when she was drawing, his gaze lingering a little too long, as if his attention wasn't on her artwork but on something else entirely. At first, she brushed it off as her imagination, telling herself that Max was just an eccentric artist who saw the world differently. But with each passing lesson, the sense of discomfort grew. Louisa found herself hesitating before each new session, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. She couldn't shake the feeling that Max was pushing her to cross a line she wasn't ready to cross. The drawing started to feel less like art and more like something else. There was a strange tension in the air whenever she sat down to draw with him. And though she tried to ignore it, Louisa couldn't help but feel that something wasn't right. She found herself questioning his motives, but every time she considered bringing it up, she dismissed the thoughts, convincing herself that she was just being paranoid. Max never raised his voice or acted aggressively, but there was an unsettling energy about him, something she couldn't put her finger on. Louisa didn't know how to talk about it with her parents. They trusted Max, and she didn't want to worry them over something she couldn't fully explain. So she kept quiet, burying her growing concerns deep inside. But as the lessons continued, she couldn't help but wonder how much longer she could ignore the strange feelings creeping into her mind. One afternoon, Max suggested Louisa draw a portrait, but not just any ordinary portrait. He wanted to capture her in an unusual style, one that seemed far beyond what was appropriate for her age. Louisa immediately felt a wave of discomfort wash over her, a nagging feeling that something was off. She had never imagined that a simple drawing could feel so wrong. Max, however, was insistent. He spoke with such passion about his vision for the portrait, and his excitement made it hard for Louisa to refuse. She hesitated, trying to find a way to excuse herself, but Max reassured her, urging her to take a break and offering a cold drink to help her relax. Though Louisa still felt uneasy, she agreed to the drink, hoping it would calm her nerves. As soon as she took a sip, she felt an odd sensation. Her head began to spin slightly and her thoughts grew fuzzy. The room seemed to blur at the edges, and Louisa couldn't understand why she was feeling this way. It was as if the drink had clouded her judgment, making it harder to think clearly. Despite the growing sense of unease, Louisa found herself nodding when Max suggested she pose for the portrait. The decision felt strange, as if it wasn't entirely her own. She couldn't recall exactly why she agreed, only that she felt compelled to do so. Max, meanwhile, was clearly eager to proceed, and his nervous excitement became impossible to ignore. He was too close to finishing what he had started, and Louisa could see it in his eyes, the intensity, the desire for something more. It made her stomach turn. But just as the tension reached its peak, Louisa's phone rang. It was her mother, urgently asking her to come home. Louisa seized the opportunity, quickly gathering her things, her heart racing. She didn't even look back as she hurried out the door, relief washing over her as she escaped the uncomfortable situation. She didn't know exactly what had almost happened, but she knew that leaving Max's house was the only thing she could do to protect herself in that moment. Louisa returned home with a heavy heart, her mind swirling with confusion and unease. As she walked through the door, her mother immediately noticed the tension in her daughter's face. There was something different in Louisa's demeanor, an unsettling quietness that hadn't been there before. Her mother asked what had happened, but Louisa, unsure how to put her feelings into words, simply replied that everything was fine. Her voice lacked its usual cheer, and her movements were stiff, as though she were trying to hold something inside. Despite Louisa's reassurance, her mother's instincts told her something wasn't right. She couldn't shake the feeling that her daughter was hiding something. Later that afternoon, as she was out for errands, Louisa's mother ran into a neighbor, someone she had known for years. The conversation turned to Max, and to her surprise, the neighbor shared disturbing information. She had heard rumors about Max and his interactions with children, things that made her uncomfortable. She couldn't confirm the details, but the very mention of them sparked a deep unease in Louisa's mother. She had always trusted Max, but now the picture seemed less clear. That evening, her mother couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. She felt a knot in her stomach, and her mind raced with worries. She discussed the matter with her husband, both of them unsure of what to make of the situation. Instead of rushing to confront Louisa, they decided to take a step back and think carefully. They knew that acting out of fear or anger could make things worse. They decided the best course of action was to seek professional help. They made an appointment with a psychologist, someone who could guide Louisa in expressing her thoughts and feelings in a safe environment. Louisa's mother hoped that through this, they could uncover the truth without causing her. At first, it was difficult for Louisa to articulate everything she had been feeling. She had buried her discomfort, unsure of how to express what she knew deep down. But through patient guidance, Louisa began to understand the importance of trusting her instincts. She learned that it was okay to question people in situations, especially when they made her uncomfortable. The psychologist helped her connect the dots, and it became clearer to Louisa that something was indeed wrong with Max. The trust she had once placed in him began to crumble as she reflected on the subtle yet troubling signs she had ignored. As the days passed, Louisa's clarity grew. She could now see the inappropriate nature of his behavior, even if she hadn't fully understood it at the time. Louisa spoke more openly with her parents, revealing the events that had troubled her. Her parents, although shaken, were proud of her bravery and decided to take immediate action. They contacted the authorities, hoping that a formal investigation would provide the answers they needed. The police took the matter seriously and Max was soon arrested. For Louisa, the relief was immediate, though it came with a weight of its own. She felt a sense of justice, but the emotional scars of what she had endured lingered. She knew that she would need time to heal, but in that moment, she realized she had done the right thing. While the experience would stay with her, she also understood that she had taken control of her life and protected herself from further harm. Louisa began to feel the first glimmer of hope that things could return to normal, but she also knew that her journey of healing had only just begun. Louisa's family decided to take a more active role in ensuring her well-being. After the events with Max, her parents recognized the need to provide a more structured and supportive environment for both her and James. They established clearer boundaries and rules, aiming to create a safe space where their children could grow and thrive without fear or uncertainty. Louisa's parents spent more time with her, engaging in meaningful conversations and fostering trust. They understood that open communication was crucial for rebuilding what had been shaken. Louisa continued her sessions with a psychologist, who helped her work through the trauma and gave her tools to cope with her emotions. Slowly, she started to open up more, expressing herself with newfound clarity and confidence. Her parents also enrolled her in dance classes, hoping to provide an outlet for her energy and creativity. Louisa soon discovered that she had a passion for dancing, and it became a source of joy and empowerment for her. The dance studio became a place where she felt safe, surrounded by new friends who supported her and encouraged her to grow. Meanwhile, the investigation into Max's actions was progressing, and he was held accountable for his behavior. Though the process was painful, it gave Louisa a sense of closure, knowing that she had taken the right steps to protect herself and others. It wasn't easy, but Louisa learned the importance of standing up for herself, even when it felt difficult. The experience, while traumatic, ultimately made her stronger. Louisa realized that despite the pain she had gone through, she had gained a deeper understanding of herself and the world around her. She had learned to trust her instincts and to never hesitate to ask for help when something didn't feel right. The lessons she learned along the way became a foundation for her future. Louisa knew that she could face whatever came her way, armed with the strength of knowing her own worth and the support of her loving family.